Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Thank you very much for joining me. Can't see. I forgot when I'm on StreamYard. Everything's right close. Before we start tonight, if you are watching this live stream on the reload later on when it goes out, and there is a multitude of adverts every minute or so, stop watching it and come back and get on it tomorrow. What I found out is YouTube had been adding extra adverts into my live stream. So I've been asking them to put an advert in every 18 minutes, and they've been putting one in every 1 or 2 minutes, which must be murder for anybody wanting to watch back the live stream. So what I've started doing now is when I get up on a Sunday morning, because it takes that long for it to download, I go in and I remove as many of those adverts as they will let me remove. So if you're finding it a pain trying to watch the live streams because of all of the adverts, just do that. Just wait 12, 13 hours, something like that, and they'll be gone. And then you can watch it in peace. I don't know why they started doing it, but they have. So I wanted to get that one over and done with and out of the way. Now, hopefully our Jo can see me and she can flag my any questions that come up. So tonight we're doing a paranormal night. As we've just had the premiere, and I shared a number of reports of people's reports that they've shared with me really over the years. And some that are my favourites I go back to often. I have a read of them. And I noticed people were talking about living in haunted houses and haunted schools and things like that. And I've always kind of lived in a haunted house. I don't really know how to say that any other way. So like the first memory I have of being in a cot, something paranormal struck my head. And then obviously I had all that stuff as a kid in the bedroom. And when I went to Bewlill, it was an old mansion. When I mentioned Bewlill Park, I never explained correctly. The place where I saw the ape man is Bewlill Hill Mansion, and that was an old Edwardian, I think, really big mansion that people lived in. And my school was over the road from it, and that was a mansion. It was a people's home, and it had a big long driveway, and there was a carriageway to go in with a horse and carriage. It had a ballroom and a library, and it had a priest hole and all of these like little nooks and crannies that could take you to places. And because it was owned by the council and they were so poor, they never removed anything out of it. So when we were in the classrooms, we were in like the bedroom, so there'd be a big, like really beautiful marble fireplaces in there, and it'd have the bells for the servants. And upstairs in the like the loft, as you'd call it, the attic, that was where all of the servants stayed. Now, Bob's in the chat. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. And before it was a school, it was a grammar school. So it was someone's home. There was 2 sisters, the Somerville sisters, and they didn't have any descendants. So when they died, it was passed to Salford Council, and they made it into the boys' grammar school. And then in about the 60s, 70s, they added on a new wing. So it was just over a little road, and there was a big, like modern building, really, like not modern for our day, but modern for back then. But I love the old school, and people used to talk all the time. I can't pull you in, Jo. Jo's asking me if I can send it to email. She can't star the comments. It's all right, Jo. Don't worry about it. I can see them. They're right here in front of me now. So it's not a problem at all. If I come out of this, I'll lose my stream, Max, on his Xbox, so I've got minimum data. No, you don't have to. Don't worry about it, Mark. It's fine. So there'd be all these like nicks and crannies and little places you could go and hide. It was really I liked it, mate. It wasn't a spooky school for me, but there was a lot of kids who went there who talked about experiences that they'd had at the school. And we used to have that urban myth of like there was I think it was a caretaker that had killed somebody under the stage in the ballroom, and he'd come back and haunt you. But honestly, the only thing I ever saw at Bewlill was a lady who looked like she was in possibly Edwardian, Georgian kind of dress. And they used to be next to the music room. There was the toilet was so old, it was like Victorian, and it was like, that it's white and then you get all the blue patterns on it. It was like that. That's probably worth a fortune back in the day. And I think that's where she came from. But that was it. That was the only thing I ever saw at school. Did you ever see anything at Clarendon, Mark. Clary School.
So you had many stories, just no, didn't say anything. What was that?
So was it like a deadly caretaker or a green hand, or what was the...
You got the usual green hand.
Was it the green hand?
Lady,
it was the, yeah.
All that stuff.
There's supposed to be a white lady at Bewley.
There's supposed to be a white lady in Seedley Park.
Is there? Well, you never told me that. All them years we've been together and I didn't know that.
The green hand was in Seedley Park as well.
Right, so like that. It's like me though, wasn't it? After I'd seen the 8 Man, everyone went on about, oh God, yeah, like we all knew about the 8 Man. That's why teenagers didn't go in there at night and stuff. But they didn't tell me. But tonight, what I'm doing is I'm going back to a case that I did last year at Lincolnshire, Sutton Bridge. Many of you will know it because of the ghostly hand that's seen, and I've got video of that to share with you tonight. And Chrissy actually got in touch with me, and I didn't manage to get to a message until today. If you've messaged me in the last 2 weeks, whatever format that is on, I will have not got back to you. And I'm really sorry about that. But we've had lots of at-home stuff to do. Mark's parents are not very well, so he's been nipping him up and down to hospital. And we live in the world's smallest flat, so we're really trying to like downsize everything as much as we can, just to make it easy for us to live in here. My bedroom is an absolute nightmare because I have my everyday clothes and then I have my work clothes, and we've got one cupboard, don't we, Mark? Yeah. What was probably the old linen cupboard. That's all we've got as a press, like as a wardrobe. So he's been fandangling it, whatever the word I'm going to make up. We're just trying to altering it. Yeah, is the posh. We're just trying to get it so we've got more hanging space. So that's what we've been concentrating on. So when I got to the message, I was like, oh, flipping heck, that's a bit. Huh. So I'm going to share with you now the first video. Now this video was taken as the family were ending their stay at the home. Now I will go back to the beginning, but I just want to give you the taste of what it was like. So Chris is actually packing up. You can see the packing boxes there and all of the like when I show you the video. But I'm going to play it twice. It's about 1 minute and 20 seconds long, but I'm going to play it twice just so you can get your eye in. And don't worry, if you want to see it again, just let me know and I'll do it. I've actually learned how to sneak into StreamYard without paying for it. So I'll only be able to do it every now and again, but it enables me to share video. It won't let me share images, but I've rigged it so I can share video through it. So let's see if this works. If my fandangling has worked this time, Mark. So, yeah, there we go. Right, have a watch of this. I keep concentrating around that door area. So what we're looking at here, it's an old farmhouse. It was built in the 1830s by George Petts for his wife Sarah and his son Samuel, who was born the year that the house was made. It's out there in Sutton Bridge in Lincolnshire, so near Wisbech, Kings Lynn, that kind of area. Literally like a lighthouse out there for souls. And Chrissy contacted me originally. Before COVID, she contacted the Help My Home is Haunted team, and they did come down and they did some investigation, and they decided that there was a dark energy, not demonic or anything like that, but a dark energy. He wasn't really keen on men. And the chap who runs that paranormal team was actually left trapped in the bedroom. So I'm going to show it you again, just so you can see it again as it goes through. So what we're looking at is the hallway, and at the end of that hallway is the bedrooms. So there's a children's bedroom and there's Chrissy's bedroom. And Chrissy's bedroom is the one where we see the small hand. It's an orb that changes to a hand, and I'll show it you later. But most of the activity seems to take place around that central farm hallway. And I think it's because it's a very old farm and it's been added onto over the years. And I think that hallway would have been central. You would have had the big front room with the fire, and then you would have had the cookhouse, wouldn't you, and somewhere where you slept. So I think that hallway's been walked up and down for millennia. And that's what we're seeing when we see these moving shapes. Some of them are very dark and some of them are very light in colour. Now, I haven't altered them. I haven't edited them. if some of them are flies, and I've let them in there because I want you to see the difference between what is a dust particle and what is an actual arm. I mean, somebody said to me earlier on, just viewing this, that, oh, that's just dust. Dust would not get the CCTV to work. It's like motion activated, if you get what I mean. Let me just take that down now so I can see the chat. There we go, yeah. So Jane's saying that mist is really weird, and my friend captured something very similar at Kidwelly Castle in Wales when we were doing a ghost stories evening. No one was smoking and it wasn't cold. It was very odd. It happened to me on Lower Riverton, didn't it? I've got actually, I think it might be the thumbnail for this video. I had my orange birdhouse on. It was really cold that night. And it wasn't there to the naked eye, but when we got back home later and I looked at the thing too, so there's like a clear shot, then there's this mist surrounding me, and it changes a few times and then it's just gone. And people said, oh, you know, it would have been fog, and it was like, it wasn't, because it wasn't there at the time. I'm quite used to mist and fog and cloud when we're up there, because you're at a high altitude. This was nothing like it, and it hung too low, didn't it? It was very low to the ground. Normally up there, the clouds are on your head, you're like Chicken Little, and when it's the fog or the mist that's rolling in, it'll be down at the bottom of the car, but you'll still be able to see the road. This was the opposite way, so it's like foggy on the bottom and clear at the top, which is really unusual. And I actually managed to capture it again last night. So we always go to the same spot, don't we? We have our little routine when we go. And unfortunately, because of the flooding lately and the snow, we've not been able to get there. It's like that. And what you're driving through, like the trough of where all the water ends up. And it's right next to the reservoir. So you get used to seeing mist and cloud coming off the res. And it was clear. So I normally stay in the car and Matt walks the dog. He walks Roy. So we have just have this routine, don't we? So I take a flask of coffee. And Michael have a quick drink, and then he takes the dog, and I just sit there, and it's my way of like winding down. So I'm there completely in the darkness, which is great for me because I'm not frightened. And about probably 6 or 7 weeks ago, last time we went, I'm in the car, and this big white van pulled up. Not a van, what were it, Mark? When he pulled up at side of me.
It's like a Hilux.
Yeah, like a big Hilux. Pulled up at side of me, and I refused to look at him. I just kept looking because I'm thinking Mark will be coming past any minute, and he just kept looking at me, and there was no reason for him to be there. It's pitch black in the other door. And he went, and Mark said, who was that? And I went, I don't know, I didn't look. I was like, I just didn't look. I don't know if it might have been a dog or something. You just never know, do you? But normally, if it's like a warden or something, he'd have rapped on his window, or, you know, I don't think it was anything I'd done wrong. I was just sat in the car while Matt was walking the dog. So Dawn's saying, with a house like Pets Lane, yeah, how many people have walked that hallway, and that misty stuff is definitely odd. It really is. I'm going to show you some more in a minute. I was thinking that. I'm thinking you'd be taking meals up and down, wouldn't you, with a busy farmhouse. And they must have been preserving there because Christy found an old smokehouse when she was renovating it. So the story is, as the story goes, that without her knowledge, about 26 years ago, Chrissy was with her first husband, and they had dogs, and they wanted somewhere that was out in the middle of nowhere where the dogs could run free. And that's when they found this home. The lady that owned it at the time was either Mrs. Moore, I think it's Mrs. Moore, or Mrs. Morris, but we're going with Mrs. Moore. I've not got my notes next to me. And Chrissy and her then husband went to view the house, and Mrs. Moore said, I don't want to sell it to you. I've had nothing but bad luck from living here. And she actually lost her son at the end of the lane. He was killed at the end of the lane. So she was very, very reluctant to sell the home to the family. But Chrissy said she just instantly felt a connection to the place. It was very run down. It was almost a wreck and ruin. And she just delighted in the fact that she was going to do it up again. So all the original pieces were there, the original doors, you know, the door knockers, all of that stuff that you want in a period house was there. So she literally fell in love with it. So that Sunday, she didn't tell Mum and Dad, she wanted to surprise them at Sunday lunch. So they went round to her parents' house and they sat at the table, and she said, "You're never going to guess this, Mum, but we've actually found somewhere. We found where we want to be." And Mum asked her the address, and she told her, and she said, Chrissy's words, not mine, "Oh, you silly cow. We had to move from the house when you were 2." So it was Chrissy's parents who'd actually sold it to Mrs. Moore. And they sold it because Chrissy would not settle in the house. She was plagued in a bedroom at night. Now, her grandmother was very good at the knowing. She had the gift and could see spirit in the same way that Chrissy can. So Chrissy, for all it was a dark presence around the home that started on the very first day that she moved in, she always felt more that she was battling with it rather than that it was frightening her, if you get what I mean. I asked her when she first noticed anything. She said the first week I moved in, there was a very dark figure, really, that she'd see. And there's an old pump house on the home because it's right next to the shore. So as you can imagine, most of the homes there would have a pump. So the old pump house, like now the garage, and that's originally where we pick up the CCTV anomalies. So the anomalies started one night about 8:30 last year, round about March. One of her sons gets up very early in the morning, and she was worried about him doing that. So that's why she put the CCTV in. Nothing to do with the haunting, nothing to do with any of that. She has always felt capable of being in that home and existing with the spirit that are in there. So children have noticed spirit in the room. One of the boys used to draw like faces and things like that you saw on his ceiling. That, to me, it suggests that there's both kinds of energy there, because you see a lot of dark movement, don't you? And you see a lot of light movement. But what I'm going to play for you now is the very first instance where Chrissy's gone, "Oh my Lord, that really is out of the ordinary." So she's living in a home where the door handles will literally unscrew themselves. Cupboard doors will come off. They'll be banging and rantanning on doorways and things like that. Almost, "Get out of my home. This is my home." But as she's done it up, she hasn't, for all she's modernised it, she's done it in a very sympathetic way. So the home's kind of grown with her and her children. Her first husband was lovely, she said. And when they moved in, he was a lovely man, but his personality changed completely. Completely. And when they split up and he moved out, he was back to his normal self again. And years later, she meets her next partner, and it's exactly the same thing. He was absolutely fine until he moved into that home. And it seems to be like an oppressive energy that doesn't like males, really. It can make a male feel very depressed or, very drained, or like this. This is the only way that I can give it you in my way of doing it. Like, just cannot take it anymore. And they leave that home and they're fine. So I didn't meet Chrissy up until March of last year, when obviously she's put the CCTV in. She's waiting for a Tesco delivery, so she's like the rest of us out there. It's 8:30 at night. She's got 3 young boys under the age of, say, 15, and she's a busy mum. So she's just waiting on this Tesco delivery. The dogs start going mad. Some car must have come into the driveway because obviously the CCTV's picked up on the movement. She goes out to greet the driver and it isn't the driver. So she goes back in to check it, and this is what she hears. Now, I've only put one clip of the audio up for you because there's about 20 minutes of it, and I know you don't want to sit through it all. So this is just the very first time where Chrissy was like, "I don't like this. I think I need a bit of help with this." And that's when she contacted me. So just one sec. kind of gargling sound. It does. It sounds like somebody's talking. So what I've done is I've gone through the 18 minutes and I've pulled out all of the EVP, shall we call them. Now, I must explain, there's no taxi firm out there. It isn't something that's coming over, being transmitted. So it's like, it's not a busy port or anything like that. The River Nene runs side the side of the house, and that goes onto the Nene washes. And then obviously that goes out into the sea. So we kind of checked all that out, you know. And if it was, surely it would be doing it all of the time. Now, if anyone wants to go through the audio, I'm more than happy for you to do it. And each of the videos actually has a time and date stamp on them. So you can see that they kind of happen around about the same time. So something's going on after about 7:30 at night. And you start to hear, help, help, I'm drowning. You hear a number of children's names given. And I don't want to put suggestion into anybody. So I'm not really going to really reveal what those names are. But there are lots of help me, I'm out here alone. And it sounded to me, I'm going to be honest, like 1,000 lost souls that were out there on the beach, wandering, lost. And then you've got Chrissy with her abilities in a house that she used to live in as a baby. And then she somehow, serendipitously, she has made it, you know, made her way back there to that home. And I am the same. I think it's something that she's trying to use that energy to communicate. Now, the pump house, where that audio is coming from, is the area of the most darkness. And that's where she saw the figure standing. There are 2 full videos on this. My Haunted House, it's called. They're actually in my YouTube channel. Because I covered the case, it took that long to cover it. There was so much activity. So Chrissy reaches out to me. I ask her about the previous investigation, what they did, what information they came up with. And I wanted to do it differently. I'm not a great one for sending in a paranormal team. And I know lots of people like to do that, but that's not what I do. Normally, by the time people come to find me, they've done all of that. A team, with the utmost respect, is going in to prove that there is a haunting at that property. So they want video evidence, they want audio evidence, they want evidence of things moving, they want to see orbs, they want to hear EVPs. She has all of those. What she wanted was just another opinion of what possibly could be going on at that address. And I thought, this lie, she's tied to this house somehow. There's a tie to her somehow. And something's comfortable with her being there. And for all bad things have happened while she's been there, also lots of very good things have happened as well. She's felt comfort at times. And she said, I really believe that I'm being tolerated. Now, I'd gotten a name when I was talking to her, but I just wrote it down on my paper as I'm taking notes. And I thought she'll mention it to me at some point. And she did. She said, I think he's called Samuel. And I thought, right, well, I can do something with that. I can go and look. So obviously I know the address of the house. So I go and I look. And I realise that there was a Samuel Pets that lived at that address and went into that address when he was a newborn baby. And it was his father, George Pets, and his mother, Sarah Burton. Now, remember those names that built that house. I also suggested that, and it happens anywhere where you've got a maritime heritage, regardless of where you are in the world, you will have used anything from the wrecks that washed up on that beach would have been used. So if a stone, I don't know, say a stone jug, you wouldn't walk past it. Not in the Victorian days. It would be seen as an asset. So anything that's come off those wrecks or washed up onto shore was seen as an asset. And that's what happened with buildings. So lots of buildings have old ship wood in them. They'll be in the attics or there'll be the lintels above the windows and things like that. It's just natural. That's what happens. And I wondered if it was a combination of all these things. So Matt's asked, is it just our minds that escalates these experiences. I don't think so in this case. We didn't have a family that was running screaming. When the boys were literally happy, and we decided between ourselves that as long as those boys were happy and not frightened, there was no need to send anybody in. There was a story to be told, and I myself felt that that man was connected to the land in such a way that he didn't like modern life. He didn't like what had happened to the land there and the changes and the homes that had been built around it, because back then it would have been there on its own, and they would have pulled in the nets for fish, and they would have smoked them. He had sheep on the land. He grew up there from being a baby, so he had the same connection that Chrissy had. She was a baby when she went in there, you see. So I'm thinking, well, so what's the connection? What's the connection to Chrissy and all of this activity that's going on in the home? Why are the boys seeing something? So obviously I know the name of the boys. I'm not going to give them out because they're youngsters, they're minors, and I shouldn't do that. And a lot of the activity would actually ramp up when the smaller boy was around. Now there's a video here that I'm going to show you now, and I'm in the kitchen in the sense that I'm actually on the phone with Chrissy. So Chrissy's on the phone with me in the kitchen and the little boy's playing, and you can see the arms moving. I'll just share that with you. You get the right one. Oh no, that's not that one. Second. There we go. The kitchen is where you can see the dark shape going into now. You get a better. It's this one. Sorry, I've got that many of them. Like I say, there's quite a lot of them. And there are some things in these videos that I definitely are bugs. It's out on the coast. It's a normal house. It's got dogs in there. It's got kids in there. It's got the whole 9 yards. And we're looking at March, April, May. So there will be insects moving around. But the best thing to do is to leave them in there, because you can kind of show the difference. Let me put some more on for you. This one. On this one, once again, you want to concentrate around that door area, that central door area. That's actually Chrissy's bedroom. And what you're seeing is a door jamb. And about 21 seconds in, you will see an orb appear. And that orb almost changes into what looks like a child's hand. I wonder if I can. Yeah, I can actually make it bigger for you. Do it again. Stay there, Ron.
Come on, mate.
Hopefully you caught that then. You saw that. I know, it is incredible, isn't it? And you'd be amazed how many people have said to me, you've edited that in. I'm not that good, believe me. Chrissy has no technical skills. Neither does her current partner. There is nothing in that video that has been manipulated in any way, shape or form. Most people said to me, why didn't you go to the TV? Why would I? What good would that do? My involvement in this case was working out why the activity was happening around the boys. So I wanted to go back in history, and I did. I went back to the year that the house was built. And that year, there was a river pilot called Richard Burton and his son Bernard Burton, who was 14. And he'd got a boat 3 months previously from King's Lynn. And it was sold cheaply because, there was 3 dead men in the boat. Nobody ever found out who they were. It just drifted up to the shore, and there was 3 dead mariners within the boat. And he bought that at a very cheap price. Now, what he would do was, talking the Victorian days, so lots of people would come from Sheffield and Manchester in the Peak Districts, and, you know, it's a Lincolnshire shore, isn't it? So there was a party of 7 from Sheffield, a man and a lady that were engaged. There was a single lady on her own, an elderly lady, and there was a family. And the family had small boys. And one of those boys has the same name as Chrissy's small boy. And they set out to go mackerel fishing and to get some samphire. And that's kind of what they would do back in the day. So while I'm chatting to you, I'm just going to put another one of the video. I'll just play the videos for you so you can see them. I'll start with that one again. So off they set, lovely day, not a problem. And as they're coming into shore, there's a squall and the entire boat goes down. And only the single lady survived. Richard Burton died, his son Bernard Burton died, and the family with the children also died, and the engaged couple. When we got that information, Chrissy was then able to find the grave of the child. And I also found, I can't put it on, it won't let me share pictures, but there's a newspaper report that talks about this boat going down and it names everybody. And Chrissy was able to find the grave, and she went and she left a little teddy bear there. When we were chatting, I was trying to think of a way. I said to her, you do know, don't you, that you're kind of the catalyst for this? So like when you're around, activity happens. And when the kids are around, activity happens. So as long as you're comfortable with it, let's find a way where you can turn it in and off, on and off. And I can't go into all of the details of the case tonight. It's far too long. So I asked her what she did when she was kind of relaxing. You know, what do you do to relax? And she said, nothing. I've got 3 boys and a partner. So I said, well, what did, when she was younger, she would sit and sketch. So I said to her, do that. Sit down and sit and sketch and think about them. So that's what she's been doing in the last 12 months. She's been sitting down and doing automatic sketching. And she does that and she moves that spirit on and over. And I could show you some of the sketches, but it won't let me. I'll put them up on the community page on YouTube later on for you. So this is the one with the hand in again, if you remember what you're seeing now. So we look, and as I say, the small boy that was in the boat has the same name as Chrissy's. The small children, it's a family. Chrissy's out there in a family home. I think it's like a place for spirit to go. I think he enjoys, but he's not the dark energy, because I think it's the playful energy that's the young boys. And I find Samuel Pets. And Samuel Pets was born in the house as a soldier. And I think it was his land and he's the dark spirit. So we go back. I got an ancestry and I go back. Samuel Pets' dad, George, married. Do you remember the name of the pilot of the boat? Burton, Richard Burton. He married Sarah Burton. Yeah. Who's like Richard Burton's great aunt. So it's 2 families that have lived in the air there for generations. One of them's closely connected to the home. And I would imagine that they have been meeting at that home, Christmases, birthdays, christenings. You know, it would have been a gathering place. And once again, we're back to this hallway. So the people would have been coming out. And I think the Pets family and the Burton family have been meeting there for generations. And I think that's why all of this activity was going on around them. And I think, see that book? That was definitely a fly, wasn't it? So people like, cut that out. No, I'm not cutting it out. I want it to be transparent. I want you to say, no, that's a bug, but I don't know what that bit is. Everything seems to happen on this CCTV camera around this hallway, or the audio tends to come from the pump house itself. Haven't been to the property because I didn't want to amp it up in any way, shape or form for anybody. And I felt that's what would happen if I went in with a team, and I didn't want to do that until we kind of solved the mystery. Once we worked out it was probably just Samuel, she had a word with him and she just said, look, this is my home and I've respected it in every way that I can. And I get that you're there and I feel you, and it has to be a status quo. This pulling, parting, stop. And in the meantime, she's thinking about moving. And I think the energy ramped up because he knew that she was going. I think he's perfectly happy with her and her family there. But I don't think he's overjoyed about other people being in that property. So I'm hoping that makes sense to some folk. Let me go to... Matt's asking, do people have to be mentally receptive? Obviously, I'm not an oracle or an 8-ball, so I can't answer that question for you. Yeah, I have no idea how I see, feel, or experience the paranormal. I don't have any idea how a person out there does it. It just, some people can and others can't. And I don't know why. There is no answer to that. There's no rhyme or reason to any of it. But what I could have done was I could have gone in dressed as all in leather with my big cross and, you know, done my St. Michael's prayer, and it all would have gone incredibly negative for that family. And they would have left there running, wouldn't they? And that's not what happened. They knew that they were going. She knew that she couldn't go and leave all of that activity going. So what she worked on herself, without any prompting, was to move that spirit on. And that when the house was closed and it was just her again and the family, there was only Samuel around. And the crux of the story is that she feels that Samuel's followed them to the new home. I think he's just attached to her and those children like they were his children and grandchildren. Does that make sense? So, as I say, I think it's a combination of all of that. And Chrissy has been the transmitter, the receptor. I don't think it's happened because of her. I think it's happened and she can pick up on that. And he's tried scaring everybody else out of that property and it's worked. But it didn't with her. She dug her heels in and she knew that she was going to stay. So people who think that this is some kind of made up, you know, excitement for TV kind of thing, it isn't. Go back 25 years when you've got a woman who's on her own all night long because her partner's at work. It's 5 o'clock in the morning and something's kicking at the door of the home. You live in the middle of nowhere. No cars come down the lane. And she's in bed pregnant, not knowing what to do. Or she's there when the kitchen cupboard doors are flying open and things like that. She's had to live with that and get up every morning, get them kids to school and go and be a mum and do a job and do all of those things. So I knew she was really capable and I knew she'd be fine on her own. And I took a lot of stick for this case over the last 12 months, people telling me what I should do and what I shouldn't do. Chrissy came to me for a reason. People meet for a reason. And the only reason Chrissy met me was for me to say, you've got this. You don't need me. You know exactly what to do and you'll do it. And you just got to kind of trust in yourself. Do you get what I mean? You just got to trust that ability of yourself. You're going to make mistakes, but it worked for her. And so what you've got now is a situation where she knows if anything like that crops up again, it's fine. You have to triage these cases. So you've got to do the ones with young children in first. Matt's asking me questions like I'm God, like I've got the... I don't know. I can't tell you. I can tell you what my belief is. My belief is that everything is energy. Everything that is on this earth or in this universe or in this dimension is made of energy. And when you die, you go back to that energy source. And it's up to you whether you come back or you don't come back. And ghosts are not just walking spirit. Some are a moment trapped in time that replays over and over again. And sometimes we walk into that atmosphere and we see that. So you might be a small child on a school trip and you walk into a mansion, Tatton Park, for instance, somewhere like that, Bramall. You walk in and I hope Bob's in the chat, he won't mind me sharing. When Bob was a small boy, he went to, I think it was Bramall Hall, and he saw a beautiful lady in there. Nobody else saw it. And his mum asked then, she said, yeah, she gets reported quite a lot. Dawn, who's in the chat tonight, did the same thing. I think it was at Longley, wasn't it? And Dawn saw a lady all in grey. When me and Mark went to Clitheroe Castle, we saw a couple, an old couple that looked like they were from the early 1800s. And they were just watching the children, weren't they, Mark?
Yeah.
They were just watching it because there was a butterfly hunt on there, and they'd set the castle up so that the kids could run down and collect all these hidden butterflies. And I think that's just what they were doing. I think they were just there watching those children. I think it's really, really different. It's like Brian saying, it's 100%. We can choose to come back here, or we can choose not to be. We don't have. You're free. This sack of skin that you're in. It's just this sack of skin that you're in. You're free. I've worked with kids who've told me how they died in a previous life, and they have a birthmark in that spot. Like, there's no explaining that. So not every case I work ends up on YouTube. So I probably worked 10 paranormal cases, and the only one I put out is Chris's, because it was a different situation. It's a delicate situation where I've had to help mums, young mums, whose children are experiencing things in the bedroom. And I'm thinking, right, well, if mum's picking up on it and the kids picking up on it, it's important. It's something that needs dealing with. So whether you believe in the paranormal or not, that doesn't matter. What matters is that kid going to bed at night. So we encourage that mum and that kid to put the control in their hands again. And I said to him, go in the room and have a word with it and say, ow, you're not scaring me, child. This is my home. I know you used to live here. Yeah. 9 times out of 10, when I do these cases, I say, are you on priory land? And they go, yeah. You see, it's old land where people have worshipped for millennia, whether that be the church, the pagans, the Picts, whoever. We've worshipped there for a reason. And she's moved into a home on there that's built probably in the 16th century. And those stone holes and the land beneath your feet holds that energy. And some people, at times in their life, will tune into it or not. There's no rhyme or reason to any of it. I remember speaking to Brian only 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I said to him, you've never told me about your paranormal experiences, Brian. And he was like, yeah, I've been having them since I was a kid, Deb. Brother was the same. I spoke to Bob last week. It's not your turn yet. You got to wait. It's not your turn. We'll go on the bed in a bit when I finish, I promise. Yeah, I promise.
Right.
It's all right. So like Bob had said, there was a night he lived with his parents in his home. And he would see it like a white smoky shape at the bottom of the stairs. And decades later, he never told anyone, but decades later, in a conversation with his brother said, yeah, I saw that as well. So you just don't know what people see, you know. I spoke to another chap this week who said that he would, as a child, he could lie down and he could literally levitate off his bed. He's always seen spirit. He's picked up on it in his home that he lived in grandmother's home, in his parent-in-law's home as well. And it's just been a lifelong event, and they're as ordinary as I am. The young lady who saw the horrible creature close to Bewlil when she was at her grandmother's house, her grandmother put her arm around her and said, it cannot harm you. It can't do anything to you. And she said it was frightening of her gran. And she honestly believed that her grandma had kept a lid on that until she died. And the day they buried her, the big iron gate fell down. And she said, I knew at that point that he was released. And that was the words that she used. He was released at that point. And I wonder if me and her saw the same thing, because it was the same year. It was 1982, 83, something like that. And around that time, yeah, it would be 82 because we left school in 83. She saw the same thing around the same time. And I don't know if we've seen the same entity, to put it. Praise the Lord. I think it's belief is. I never talk about religion. I don't understand it. I never had it. But I understand belief and know what it feels like to believe in something, to know that it won't let you down. It's there. I don't know what it is. I just call it the all one. It's just like source. We go back to source. The same conversation with my dad the week he was dying. And he said to me, right, he was frightened to die. And then when he got near the end and he was like, no, I'm not now, Dad. I'm not now, because I know where I'm going and I know what I can be. You can be. Some people come back so many times and other people never come back again. Don't think I'm coming back. I don't know. I have the belief that you can be You can come back as a river, or you can come back as a bird, or you can come whatever you want to be. Every single thing is made of energy. And if it's made of energy, then it has a meaning to somebody. And yeah, that meaning brings comfort, doesn't it? So when people used to say, I don't know how to go and see a psychic for, some psychics are legit. I know there's 95% of them are not, they're complete flakes. But there are people in this world that can communicate with spirit that's passed over. And I stopped questioning it when I was a kid. Like, the amount of times I've been to psychics and they've blown my mind, yeah. And I'm not one for believing everything. I go with a really skeptical, like, oh, here we go again, like some Bobby Dazzler who's going to, was it Mary? Was it Mary? It was an M. No, it might have been Maureen. It could have been Maggie. I'm not sure. It might have been Michelle. Until someone puts their hand up and they click onto you. I walked into one when I was 21 and I was walking down the thing. He made eye contact with me and I turned my head like that. I didn't want him to speak to me, and he spoke to me like my granddad would and just said to me, you've had your teeth done and you didn't need them doing. And that was something we used to talk about when I was a kid. It was just really weird. And then he was like, you're going to get a new house and you're going to move. And at the time I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I've got no plans of doing any of those things. And it just kind of happened. But the main one for me was the gypsy lady when I was 7. And she said to me, you'll write stories one day and everybody in the world will know you now. So like, stop messing about at school, get your head down, girl. Yeah, I'll never forget that. Never. And she literally did that. And like, that's what I do in it. I type all day long. There was other stuff she told me, don't get like things she knew about family, and there was just no way. She didn't charge me. There was no money exchange or any of that. She just used to be a fair at Beulah every year. And there used to be a gypsy gentleman, and he could guess anybody's age. And back then you could pay him a tanner. Yeah, so it was like a tanner or 10 bob or something like that. And he'd guess your age and he never got it wrong. And it was his wife. I was in the queue because I thought, when I was little, nobody believed I was my dad because I was so small. I had a growth problem when I was little. So people used to say, that's not your dad. She's like 6 months younger than she's trying to make out, kind of thing. And I was. So I thought I had on him, because the trick was, if he couldn't guess your age, he'd double your tanner. So I thought, he'll never get mine. He won't get mine because I don't look 7. Like, I remember standing there and he went, you're 7. And I thought, you bastard. Can't go on that hook duck now or anything. I've got no spend. And it was her, it was his wife, and she pulled me to one side and she said to me, shh, you need to stop messing about at school one day. Everybody's going to know your name. You're going to write stories all across the world. You need to get your head down in school, girl. Yeah, true that. And I was just like, how strange. And then the amount of times I've gone with my mum and my nan to places and nothing. I've had nothing. Absolutely nothing. And it just, some people are really good at connecting and others aren't. Does anybody remember Doris Stokes? Let's see if that pops up. I absolutely loved Doris Stokes. My dad did as well when I was a girl. And she was an older lady, Doris. She was working class. Never made a penny from anything, she said. I'll never have money, me and him, yeah. And she went all over the world helping people with her gift. And I feel like that sometimes with Mark. I just think, we'll never have money, me and him, will we? But we're rich in other ways, aren't we?
Yeah.
We feel too rich when it comes to some things. Brian's saying, some people say we come to learn a lesson here. I don't see it like that. It's not a school where you have to learn things. It's mainly about experiencing physical things. I think that the beings that we are now, us humans, 2024 humans, are not what we were meant to be. I think we were meant to be far more in tune with the things that go on around. And I think society closed that down. It's probably a soapbox thing for me. But I think you used your abilities far more back in the days before we had global communication, You hear of these stories, don't you? I'm trying to think of, what was the name? Bessie. There was a witch, famous witch, Bessie Dunlop, and she could tell farmers when their cattle were going to get ill or die. And because she could do that, and it was normally correct, they burnt her at the stake, poor old Bessie Dunlop. And then my great aunt, all the way down the line on my granddad's side, she did the same thing. She could predict when animals would die, and she did. She did it a few times. And they tried to burn her at the stake for it. but she was given a pardon, luckily. And she just knew when animals were going to be ill. And then I spoke to, people will remember Daisy. She lives on a farm with her dad. And I shared her story last year. 20 years before, she was walking the dog, going down a country lane. She lives on the border where you get Sussex and Surrey, on the tri-border area there. And she's walking down a cart track, lovely sunny day, walking the dogs are out in front of her. And she suddenly sees this thing. And she said it was like a fox in colour, reddish, orangey thing. She actually drew it for me. She said, and he was just wandering along in a world of his own, like she was. They kind of saw each other at the same moment, at that moment. And she said at that moment he stood up. So it's like a dog, but it stood up on two legs. And she said it was almost as if it was pulled away. Like she described it as when you draw with a pencil and then you rub it out with the eraser and it just faded out like that. This being just kind of faded out. And then she obviously went back to the farm and told her mum. I mean, she wasn't a young girl or anything. She was in her 20s. And she went back and told mum, and mum admitted that she'd seen something in a tree that had absolutely terrified her, really, really frightened her. And she stopped walking the woods. She wouldn't go out anymore. And she said, I tried to get my mum out a few times, she wouldn't do it. The only time she'd do it is when it was autumn or winter and the leaves were off the trees. Because she said there was one time that she saw something walking through the woodland and it was worse than what she saw in the tree. She'd never go into detail and tell her, never put a name to it or anything like that. And unfortunately for Daisy, things started happening around the family farm. And it was a similar thing. It was like she reached out to me and she knew what she needed to do. Sometimes people just need a bit of confidence. They just need me to say, well, you've done exactly what I would have told you to do. What advice I would have given you, you come through intuitively. I think that makes people believe in their abilities and it gets much easier for them. Why they connect to us and why they come around the home and thing, she has the same question as me. Is it a friend or is it a foe? Is he turning up to terrify her? Because if he is, he's doing a really good job of it. There was one night, she likes to moonbathe. So if you're a grounding person, you're into grounding, you don't just need to ground in the day. Every human being should get 15 minutes of sunlight and 15 minutes of moonlight every day. It tells your body when it's night time. It's a natural thing. It's what we're supposed to do. And as humans, we don't do it, do we? Sometimes we'll come in the daylight, we're in our home and we go to bed. We don't have that moonbathe. So force yourself to go and stand on the step with a coffee for 10 minutes and just have it. And she said one night, that's what she was doing. She was with a dog. And she said this dog was so attached to her that he would literally get violent with anyone who come in the house. He was so like a resource guardian, Joe. Is that the right description? But he was guarding his owner. And she said, I knew in that moment that something was there. I could feel it breathing. She said, and the dog's tail went underneath its legs and it literally crawled out of there back to the farm. She did the same thing. And that, in equal parts, scared her, but made her really angry as well. Because she was like, that's one of my favourite places to be. And it's one of my favourite places to go. And you've stopped that for me. So there was an anger there with it. So it's not people, it's so cut and dry when you hear it on a podcast. Because what you're hearing on a podcast is condensed down to 40 minutes, 45 minutes. So you can't go into the depth of what it feels like, these struggling emotions of what is it, I need to know, and oh my God, I'm terrified. If I think about him, will I see him again? Because that's a real threat for any witness. Will I see him again if I put my thoughts out there? Will I connect to him again? And the answer to that is yeah, probably. I would imagine so. And then when we come to the tricky subject of a tulpa. Some people could say that I thought about my experience so much, that's why I saw him that day. I didn't think about anything like that before I saw him. I had no knowledge of Bigfoot or cryptids. If you'd have asked me in 1982 if I thought I'd have saw something, I'd told you to fuck off. Yeah. There's no way. I didn't believe in any of those things. I just didn't. I didn't, and I still question myself. 42 years on, I still question myself. Did I see him there that day? Is it just something in my head? Was it fear? What was the fear then that made him materialise? There was none of that. We were laid down, we were laughing and joking. We were probably talking about boys or something, do you know what I mean? We were just laid down like that, talking to each other, having a crafty fag, so the teachers couldn't see us. And it just happened. Matt's picked up on a point, and it's important. And I say this often, Matt, and people get sick of me saying it. Human beings are the only animal on this planet that ignores its intuition. Every single thing else out there acts on what its gut tells it to do. And society has taught us to go, no, that didn't happen. Well, that must have been the wind, that must have been this, that must have been that. And you completely shut it down. So it's like we never, ever, ever act until we learn to trust our gut. You always have that voice in the back of your head telling you not to trust it. That was one of the biggest battles of my life. Now I don't even question it. I don't even question it. People will say to me, Dad, watch this video, watch this video, watch this video, watch this video, watch this video. I think, no, the video I'm supposed to watch will land on my knee. And then it does. And it's like, that video is for you. It's not for me, it's for you. You've seen it and you've connected with it in that way because it's for you. It's not for me. Yeah, my past's completely different. There's a guy out there, and I'm not going to mention any names, who's been telling me since 2015 that I would put cryptids before human beings any day. And I've said to him since that day, no, it's not a chance. Not a chance. It doesn't work like that with me. I would put humans in front of them always. Always would choose humanity first. Always would do it. And now he's saying, but because my journey wasn't the same as his, he didn't think that I was doing it right. I was doing it right for me. His journey and the way he learned and the way he got there was one way. But that doesn't work for anybody else. That only works for him. So my journey was something different. We end up at the same place. So all these wars that are going on all around the world, yeah, you are all going to the same place. And you're fighting over what path you take. Now, look how ridiculous that is. If you said to a classroom of 5-year-olds, right, let's all go and choose a corner of the room now. Because now you've got your corners, you're happy where you are. Now fight to the death. Because that's what society does. That's exactly what society does. If you are not in the right corner, in the right clothes, in the right house, wearing the right name brand, walking the right dog, driving the right car, there's something wrong with you. And that is the complete opposite of what a human being is supposed to be. We are supposed, look at Amazon tribes, they have none of that. Yeah, none, and they don't need it. They don't have our diseases, they don't have divorce rates, they don't have any of that, mental depression, none of that. Society's done that to humans because it squashed your natural abilities and told you that you're crazy for having them. So if you can meet a person and know that they are ill, why is that laughed at or looked down on? Surely that is a massive asset. You telling me that this person can look at somebody and say, you're ill, and this is why you're ill, and this is why you've got to change. And we're laughing at them. We're calling them alternative media. The world flips upside down. It's completely wrong. It's just completely flips upside down. Hiya, Dazza. I've not seen you for a while. Yeah, he's been quiet for a bit, he has. Like Joe said, she'd always put animals first, yeah? So it's like that. What was that test he made me do, Mark, on the raft? And I got dead mad because he said he had no empathy. So whatever, there was a raft in the middle of the ocean and there was one person on it and you were in the one. There was only enough water to, I don't know. And I just said to him, how old are the people on it? Because in my eyes, I thought, well, if it's a baby, you've got to save the baby, haven't you? But if it's Frank, 97 from Bournemouth, be like, Frank, I'm really sorry, but we're about to have a Titanic moment because you're 97 and you've lived your life and that baby's not. So because I did it like that, I said I had no empathy. Whereas to me, it was the opposite. It was like, Frank would probably say, no, I'm 97, I've had my time. You save that little, you get that little one to show, they've got the rest of the lives ahead of him. in depth in many of us human beings, there is still humanity. It is still out there, believe me, folks. I know it's hard to see sometimes, but it is out there. And there are a lot more people who are like us, who, that's, Matt's called it religion. It doesn't matter about religion, it's belief, Matt, innit? Whatever people's belief is enough for them to go and fight, and it doesn't make sense to me that we're all supposed to believe something different. We're unique individuals, aren't we? I mean, look at a class of 10, get a class of 10 kids, put 10 kids in a class. Each and every one of them will have a skill that they're good at that the others can't do. And what we do is we numb that skill down and turn them into sheep. And we go, whoa, no, don't be celebrating that difference. Let's not be having that. Let's not stand out. You know, people will think you're weird. And it should be the other way. Like I tell Zane, never be a follower, son. Yeah. Always be a leader, never be a follower. Just because another man thinks something doesn't mean that you're supposed to think that. If someone comes to you and goes, I fell out with him and I don't like this person, and here's why I don't like this person. If you go, right, well, I don't like them too, you've made a decision on another man's thought. So the answer really should be, that's not doing me, not mate, in all honesty. This is where my energy lies. And it's like, we don't tell people that enough, do we? Malcolm's saying he's got Malcolm Salmons, I've got an encounter to share if I can. Luckily, Jo is on me and she's already got my email address up there. Anybody who wants to email me, whether it's with an encounter, whether it's to ask a question, whether it's to check to see if I'm dodgy, it doesn't matter to me. Send us an email and I will be really polite and I will answer. I don't expect anybody to believe me 100%. Why would they? I saw a Kinate man in a park in Manchester when I was a girl, and just, it's impossible, isn't it? It's impossible. But 42 years on, I'm still here. And I'm still standing here and saying, I don't care what you say. You were not there that day. Unless you were there that day with me, you can't tell me what I saw. Yeah, I might never get an answer to that. I'm all right with that. I think I saw him because I'm supposed to do this. I don't know what the end game is, but I trust it. I'll get there in the end, you know. That's what it's supposed to be like. Oh, night rake. Who's mentioned that? Richard Ryan. I don't know what a night rake is. I've not heard that expression before. Andrew Wainwright said one that I'd never heard before. He called a demon the never born. And I thought that's an amazing way of putting it, because they haven't ever been human, have they? That's why they crave emotion, whether that be bad or good or indifferent. They absolutely crave it because they've never had it, you know. Jane's taking dog for a walk. Will won't be far behind her, to be honest. We went up last night, didn't we? We had a quick brew up last night and come back down. Roy's hurt himself. He's always had an harness for walking, always, because he's a big chesty lad. But from being a puppy, people tried to steal him so many times that he's always had a collar on. And it has like a white, like a flashing light on it and all, because obviously we're up and about in the moors. And suddenly, for some reason, we didn't know, Mark took his collar off to brush him and it drugged him under here. And it got really, really, really sore. So over the last week, we've took it off and we've slung it, and he's not wearing a collar. But if you see, it looks quite sore. But Mark's putting Savlon on it daily. Yeah, and he's happy without it. It's just, he's so used to wearing it. At first, it was hard for him, wasn't it, Mark? He was like, where's my collar gone? But yeah, I'm not putting one back on him. Matt's asking me, Deb, are Crips his flesh and blood or something else? Can I say both? I honestly believe, this is my belief, I honestly believe, like the wild man type reports that we get, like the Bigfoot, that kind of thing. I think they're some kind of hominid somewhere on the human line down in history. And they have what we see as a magical ability to like blend in or never be seen, or they're elusive. I think that's very flesh and blood, but there's something with them where they can, you know, people say, oh, they clone. Well, what if they don't? What if they're just dead good at blending in with their surroundings like a native is with theirs? But when it comes to the dogman creatures and things like lizard man and sheep squatch and all of the others, I really do believe, I believe that there's some kind of energy or entity that can appear in a way to fill its agenda. And I don't mean all of them, because the descriptions are very, very different. If you listen to the Dogman reports, and the behaviours and the way they act are very different. So I think some of them are flesh and blood, but they can change their metaphysical being. And I don't know what the correct wording for that is. That's how it sounds to me, that they can metaphysically change their appearance. And if it wants to frighten you, it's going to frighten you. And if it wants to help or heal, it's going to approach you in that kind of way. The trickiness is knowing, isn't it? Who wants to enter into that relationship without knowing what the end game's going to be? But then you ask yourself, why are people seeing them? If we've got this elusive creature that can stay hidden always, why are they being seen? And why are they being seen on a bigger and more escalating rate? Are they showing themselves on purpose? I think they are. I don't think they're all accidental. I just, when people talk about road crossing creatures or creatures that just walked out in front of them, I think, why didn't they just wait? Why didn't they just stay in that bush for 10 more seconds? That cow would have gone past, or that hunter would have walked past, or, would have gone past, and it wouldn't have been seen. As it showed itself for a reason. So, let's use Mark Evans' account as an example. So, Mark, pre-COVID, Mark's had a terrible fall. He's broke his arms and legs. So he's grown up in an area where he used to play in the woods all the time as a kid, and he's just fed up. And obviously, when you can't get about, it's really frustrating when you're trapped in a chair like that. I know what that's like. So his mate said to him, just get some buddies together and I'll drive you up there. Stick it on a log, leave you there for a bit. Just ring me when you want me to pick you up again. And that's what he did. And he said it was brilliant. It was absolutely amazing. He said, I just loved it. Like, sun was shining, birds were singing. It was amazing. And I'm thinking about all the stuff I did as a kid. And he said this thing just stood up at the side of him. It stood up. It was about 7 foot tall. It had a wolf-like face. It was all covered in hair. And it just looked at him, turned its head and walked away. That is not an accidental encounter. He was meant to see that, but what we don't know is why. And at the moment, he's still in that fear element. I call it trauma shock. So, you have the incident and everything in you screams fear, horror, fright. That's what you get, because you're dealing with something you've never seen before, and that's not supposed to exist. So you've got this drop shock, and that can last. It lasted 25 years for me. Some people are brilliant at it and they're over and done in 3 or 4 months and they're out looking. Other people, it's taken 50 years to go and look. But there is always a point where curiosity outweighs fear. And it's at that point where people go, right, I'm reaching out now, I'm done. I need some answers. I need to know what it was that I saw that day. So when they come to me, I tell them straight up in the beginning, I don't know what you saw, I wasn't there with you. But these are the theories of what you see. This is possibly what it could have been. So I'm going to give you the information on all of it. Sit down and go through it and see what gels with you. What does your gut shout when you read that? Is it, no, that's nothing like what I saw. Oh my God, that's exactly what I saw. It just depends. So my skill set is getting them to that. Once I get them to that stage where they're like, right, I don't care anymore. I want to know the answers. Then I can help them, can't I? And when they're in that shock, I can say to them, I promise you it's going to go. I promise you it will go. I know it feels like it never, ever, ever will. There's no different to seeing a crime. Once you experience something traumatic, it's awful, but there is always an end to that awful. You go through it, and you just have to teach people that you go through that fear and you come out the other side. And you might always have that fear. I still have that fear, and I work cases all the time. But if a deer runs out last night, I said to Mark, don't drive too fast. There's a lot of young deer out on their own at the minute without parents. But what my mind was saying was, it's that time of year when there's dogmen about, and I'm driving down a country lane with not a light on anywhere. And the idea of this thing just running out and hitting my car, and that's all I can think of in my head. This massive dog-like thing going to come running out and hit my car. And I couldn't get the thought out of my head. And I said to Eugene, I know it's me, but I need you to drive slower. And that fear will always be there. It'll always, do you remember when we went, I'll give you for instance, when we went to Bewley? It was about 18 months ago, wasn't it? And I was still doing that thing where I really wanted to be brave and be out there and I on my own. And I said to him, take me back in the dark. I want to go back. So there, and it's pitch black. There's no lights, right? It's absolutely pitch black. Can't see my hand in front of my face. And I'm all cocky for a minute, and I went, Mark, and he didn't answer me. And I was like, Mark! And he's like, I'm here. He was just at the side of the boat. But that fear I felt in that split second, I had to get back in the car. I was like, I can't do this. I can't do it. I just got back in the car and was so disappointed with myself. But I went back, didn't I? And I made myself go back. And I did it. I did it eventually. But I don't know if I could stand in that house. I did stand there and have a conversation with him in the dark, but you were just round corner and I knew Mark were round corner. What I mean is I don't think I could go there on my own, completely on my own. But there is talk that they are opening it as an event centre. And if they do, I promise you, on my word, I will put an event on there. And Joe can come and stay at my house. I will put an event on there and we'll go to Bewlil all together. Yeah, and I will talk about my experience there, and I'll try and get some of the other witnesses out as well and see if they'll talk. But I'm determined to do that. So I'm putting it out there to the universe that that's what I want to happen. Yeah, that's what I want to happen. I want to be able to do a conference from the mansion where I saw that thing. I think that'll bring it completely. The circle will be complete for me then, won't it? You know, that's how I feel about it. Yeah, and I'll just shove Jojo on the train and she can come up here and stay with me. Yeah, but I'd love to do that. I would love to do that. I've got some exciting jobs on over the next month. I'm nipping down to London for a secret project, but when I can tell you more about that one, I will. Yeah, but I'm dead excited about it. Can't wait to tell folk. But yeah, that's in I've got about 6 or 7 experiences that I'd need to sit down and type out. But I've also got a few things in the house to get finished. So I'm going to try and get caught up on email and that this week. I really will try. Messenger, because you don't forget I have email, Messenger, Facebook Messenger. If there's a Messenger, I have it. And then I do all my YouTube comments. And I'm not one of them for just sticking an eye on everyone. I like to answer them if I can. So next 2 weeks, I'm going to try really hard to get that done. But as the sun shines, we have to get our jobs done here because 6 weeks it'll be spring. And then 6 weeks after that will be summer. And then 6 weeks after that it'll be winter. That's how it feels around here sometimes. But yeah, it's really foggy and really misty and not a whole lot we can do. But you just got to get it done while you can, haven't you? You really, really have. Yeah, Joe's saying Brian could come and get her. I think I'm hoping by doing what we do here every Saturday when we meet up and we have a natter, you can see the numbers growing. You can see people joining in for the chat and like, actually, I'm up for a bit of this. Ordinary people see the strangest of things and just being able to talk about it with your mate while you're having a glass of orange or you're having a cup of tea or you're having a wine or a pint. That's how it should be. It should be like, how are you doing? All right. Bit of a weird experience this week. Wow, what was that like, mate? That's how it should be. I love it when he meets up with his mates because his mates always go, oh, yo, Debbie just paranormal stuff, told him that. Yeah. And they come to my house for a brew to see my husband, and I guarantee they will start and I just stick the phone on the table, don't I? And I just let them talk.
Yeah, I'll tell time, yeah.
Yeah, it's loads of times it's happened, hasn't it? And I just stick that phone on the table and record it because I don't think I've met anyone yet that's not had a paranormal experience. And I use that paranormal loosely. That covers everything. Paranormal just means around normal. Yeah. So anything just outside the scope of what society classes as normal. Yeah. But I'm hoping we're going to take your Wendy up with us, aren't we, next week? This week, between now and about the 28th, is the one time for a long time where you'll see 4 of the planets lined up with the moon. So she didn't ask me for much, but she was like, please take me up top, Deb. I want to see that. I was like, yeah, I'll do that for you, lass. We can do that. So I might be able to go live. Depends on how late we are up there. But I'll do a bit of filming when we're up there for you. Yeah, if it's all right with you guys now, I'm going to retire for the night. I'm going to go put myself back in bed and have a brew and something to eat. But yeah, what did you think about those strange videos? I will put the images up on the community. When I nip into my bedroom, then I'll shove them up on community chat so you can see them. But if you want to look at any of the videos in depth, or you want to listen to any of the audio in depth, just let me know and I'll send them over an email for you and see what you get from them. You might get something completely different. I've written down, I've sent it out to about 8 or 10 people that are in the private group, and I've sent it to them, and they've wrote down what they've got from it. So I've got that written down. So it'd be interesting to see, wouldn't it, if they tally, if we get anything that tallies up. But I'm hoping you've had a cracking night. Next week, if you are interested, I've been thinking about doing. There are 4 historical strange missing person cases in the UK, very 411 like. And what I want to look at them with you, and like I used to do geological profiling for murderers. Let's geologically profile those cases. Let's see who we think the possible suspects are for those missing. One's a serial case, and the other's a missing children. I've done one from England, one from Ireland, one from Scotland, one from Wales. So I've got everybody included in it. So I think we will do that. Jimmy Willows. I'm not doing Lord Lucan. Did you watch the documentary? He's been found. Yeah. I don't want now to do with that, mate. Yeah, Lord bloody Lucan. Near Monk somewhere now. I don't know, Tibet somewhere. I'm not really sure. But yeah, if you are up for that, then I'll do it. Yeah. So from me and Mark and Noisy Roy, I'll be back at the same time on the same day next week. Night, everyone. That was a good one, that.